live.
You're live. All right. So today's message is really simple based. So what I hope to get out of this one today is that really just you can take what I'm going to give, get a snippet out of it, and really just apply it to more than one facet of your life. Because I just think it's important. It's one of those sermons that was like praying to God for what to talk about, getting the kids ready for bed, and then everything just kind of came together with it. So it's not very deep. I'm going to tell you guys that right up front, but I think it's enough to the point where you can take it and say this is what we need to hear. But I was thinking about fishing, and I was trying to think of the right story to tell, and there's so many. So what I want to think first is how many people have caught a fish, you see that bobber go down, you get so pumped, and you keep reeling and reeling and reeling, you see your whole pole bend down, and you keep reeling, and then you look, and it's nothing but seaweed when you bring it in. Anybody have that rush of an experience out there? Just about everybody. Don't lie, it's church. We can't do that. Now, how many people have had that same rush go on, and then they reel that fish in, and it's just a little guy?
Yeah.
James says, that's me. But darn it all, there's nothing more proud than when you catch that fish, right? Now, how many people have had the unfortunate issue of getting a fish just about right there, and you're so excited, you can't wait to tell your friends about it, you got the story all set to tell them, and right before you can reel it in, you lose it. Anybody? Oh yeah. How many people go fishing and just say, this sucks? Anybody? Val and James, we have two honest audience members out there, right? So the point is though, right, fishing is kind of a unique thing because it's something that you can take so many memories out of because you have to be so still. And some people enjoy it, some people hate it. Some people catch giant fish, some people catch baby fish. But the point is, I just think there's so much to take from fishing. And where this message today came from was the other day when it rained for about the 9,000th time. Real shocker there. And the rain let up for about 20 minutes. And Bryce just screamed. He's like, it's not raining, Dad. We got to go fishing. Let's go. So he got a couple worms that he had. We made our way down to the creek. And we were down there. Well, mainly it was Melanie and Bryce for a little while. I had Peyton with me. And they're down there fishing. And the bugs are just biting like crazy. Like no matter how many layers we had on, we're getting bitten by mosquitoes. But Bryce was having the time of his life down there fishing. And even in our creek that we have, with just a couple worms and a little fishing pole, Bryce caught, how many fish you catch that day, buddy? 1 or 2? Bryce caught 2 fish in that 20-minute span. And it just made me think there's something powerful about fishing. So the verse that we're going to talk about today, verses are from Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. And it says this: one day as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, I can't say that, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats, left there by the fishermen, who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put it out a little from shore. And then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he finished speaking, he said to Simon, put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch. Simon answered, Master, we worked hard all night and we haven't caught anything, but because you say so, I'll let down those nets. I want to pause there for a second. Think about this. Like, after a long day's worth of fishing, and especially as being the captain of the boat, you've got everything cleaned up and you're ready to go. How many people in their right minds are ready to actually go back out in the water? Bryce says he is because he's crazy. But for the most part, right, like at that point in time, you've got your nets cleared and you're like, man, I really enjoyed this, but I am exhausted. I can't wait to get home. So put ourselves in Simon's shoes in real life before this situation unfolds, right? Like, he's done for the day. They caught nothing. It was one of those days on the water. Sun was probably just beating down on you. He's ready. All he wants to go is have a nice big cheeseburger. And Jesus says to him, go back out in the water, right? And he just says, I can't imagine that he's saying, sure, Jesus, when he's saying this. It's probably like one of those complaints of like, Master, we've worked hard all night. But he says, because you say so, I'll let down the nets. When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners to the other boats to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats, so they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man. For he and all of his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. and so were James and John, the son of Zebedee, Simon's partners. And then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people." So they pulled their boats on shore and left everything and followed him. Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll fish for people. And what I want to talk about today is a simple lesson of what can we learn from fishing, right? And as I said earlier, it's going to partially apply to people. I think it can also apply to families. I think it can apply just to life in general. So take from this, apply it to whatever situation that you need to. But the first point is that, what do we learn from fishing? You can't catch a fish if you're not in the water. Alright? You can't catch a fish if you're not in the water. What does that mean? How does that apply to our lives? Very simply, like, we can't catch a fish, we can't impact our family's lives, we can't impact, most importantly, other people's lives if we're not in the water, if we're not out in the trenches with them doing their thing. So this is something I want to caution us all about is, as we all know, the world is crazy, but we can't catch a fish, we can't make an impact on someone's life if we're just so sheltered and we're not going out there and we're not, taking that reach. If we're not saying, hey, I've got this gym membership here, let's go there and do this. If I'm not saying, hey, let's step out and go to this concert, or let's go out to a restaurant, or let's go this. That point being very simply, you can't catch a fish if you're not in the water. We can't impact people's lives if we let the ways of this world, current events, scare us to the point that we just stay inside and we're cooped up in fear. We can't do it, right? So take it from that level. Another level I loved was there was Levi Lusko had said at one of his churches, someone had asked him, one of his associate pastors, hey man, when are we going to get a gym right here on campus? And he looked at him and goes, you're crazy. He said, you're a pastor. If we have a gym right here, you'll have no reason to leave the church. And we're not after the people that are in church. We're after the people that are outside in the world. And we can't impact those people if we're so stuck in our own bubble, if we're so stuck in our own world. Just like you can't catch those monster fish if you're not putting the time in the water. So you can't catch fish if you're not near water, is point number one. Number two, kind of like what I talked about with the kids, you need something appealing to lure the fish in. Right? You need something appealing to lure the fish in. Be it a worm, be it when we went fishing a few weeks ago, our trusty Captain Rusty literally tried so many different combinations of lures and colors and every design and everything like that just to try to get that fish to bite and lure on. Right? Point being very simple is you need something appealing to lure fish in. So again, if we're going around and we're just saying that life sucks and this is terrible and, this, that, and the other thing, and we're just constantly putting off this negative energy and we're not going out into the world and we're not making it a point to say to someone, hey, what we do is pretty fun here. We just go with the status quo. We watch numbers decrease because we're not willing to do anything that's going to lure people in. You're not going to make it. And it's the same thing, again, that applies much more than to just people in the world. It applies to our family and friends as well. Right? Think about it. If we're trying to get our kids to go to church, if we're trying to get our kids to know that this Jesus thing is a good thing, we need to make sure that we're doing something appealing to lure them in. What's that look like? Maybe it's saying afterwards that, which we used to do, wink, wink, afterwards we'd say, after church, we're going to go get lunch. And every week we'd go and get breakfast or lunch, no matter what. And it was something that was like, oh man, how many weeks did we have, Troy, where it was like, goodness, I don't want to go anywhere, but I really want an omelet. And we would go to church simply because we would not be able to get breakfast if we did not go to church first. I'm not saying full-blown bribes, but if that's what it takes at first to get someone to go, then darn it, say to someone, hey, come check out church, I'll buy you lunch afterwards. Do whatever it takes because you're not going to get a fish to bite on the line if it's not. Are you stretching or are you trying to?
Oh, that sounds good.
Okay. You're not going to get a fish to bite on the line if you don't have the right bait there to get them there, right? So the next is, once you've connected, it still takes some work to get the fish on the boat, right? I think someone in red back there can attest to that one. Once you've connected, that's only part of the battle. You get that initial rush of like, I've got somebody there, I've got this fish on, I can't wait. And then you don't realize the line's 700 feet in the water. And that fish is going to continue to pull. Heck, I'll admit it, I was just trying to reel a line in, and I was dying with no fish on the end of it. And so the point being, right, is just because you've made that connection with an individual, with a family, with a friend, whatever it may be, it doesn't stop there. You've got to continue to work. So just when you say to somebody, hey, I've got this new church, you should check it out, or hey, I'm praying for you here. It doesn't end right there. That's just the start of it. It takes work. It takes doing something that Nadine is fantastic at and sending text messages to check in and say, hey, how did that go? It's all part of the work. Once you get that initial hook, that's just the start of it, right? And that applies, again, not just to people, but to work environments, to anything. So you land that new job that you've been waiting for, you get that interview or whatever that looks like, that's just the start of things. You've got to put the work in. You've got to reel it in to get that fish on the boat, to get it to your destination. It's not easy. And this is where we all fall short. We think that, like, we're Christians, so life should be easy. We struggle every day. Every single day we struggle. And there's days where you're reeling and you're feeling great and you've got that fish right there, and then what happens? Turns right around, and that line keeps going out. What are we going to do? We going to just give up and be like, nah, dude, I'm done? Or do we keep reeling, we keep fighting? Because the reward when that fish gets to the boat, when you get that friend to be saved and to know they're going to go to heaven, when you get that promotion, when you get that child to suddenly behave or do what they're doing, when you get to become a licensed nuclear plant operator after all of those years, that reward with all of those struggles is so worth it. But the fight doesn't end once you connect the fish. You've got to continue to reel. You've got to continue to work, or you're not going to see if that truly is the prize fish, or if it's just a little baby sunfish that we like to catch, right? Another thing about fishing, this should apply to our life in general. It should be enjoyable, right? Fishing should be enjoyable, because otherwise, what are you doing out there? You're going out and you're out in the boat for 6 to 8 hours. That's misery. It should be enjoyable. You should make it a point where you're out there and you're just having fun doing it. I just, our Tyler, my older brother, and I don't understand how he loves it as much as he does, because he's got to go so much, but he had the time of his life when we took my dad out fishing. The time of his life, and he said to Rusty, he said, you know what? He said, a bad day of fishing beats a good day of work. And that's how we should approach life in general. Everything that we do should be enjoyable. When we come to church, it shouldn't be coming to church because we have to. We should come to church because it's something that we want to do. And even if the message itself doesn't apply to you, you know, find an aspect of it that you do enjoy. Be it listening to the kids sing, be it just the donuts, be it whatever it is. But what you do needs to be enjoyable, because people see that. They know when we go through the motions. And I firmly, firmly believe that going through the motions is what's leading to the downward spiral of today's church. I believe that with all of my heart. Because people go because they think this is what we need to do, and that's it. And they show up, they say their howdy doodies, they say God bless you, Pastor, and they go about their day. And they don't get a single lick out of what they're doing because they're not enjoying it. Right? So even on those days, let's say where the message doesn't apply to you and you say, I got nothing out of it. Just like those days where you're fishing and you don't catch any fish. Did you enjoy it? We need to get to a point in life where we enjoy it no matter what. Through the good, through the bad. When your kids are royal pain in the butts, you find something to laugh about still. Because if fishing isn't enjoyable, what are you doing out there? You're wasting your day away. Right? And this is another part. You're all done, Nate? Do you have a popsicle? You want to come get on camera for a minute? No! Another part about fishing that applies to our life, very simply like that, is that we need to make sure that we celebrate even the little catches. Right? When I reel, especially the first couple of fish of the season, when you reel that sunfish in, it's literally a little bit bigger than a minnow. Man, I celebrate those fishes more than I celebrate when we catch the big fish, because you don't know if you're going to catch anything else. And that's the point behind that, right? Is celebrate that little catch, because that might be the only fish that you catch. So, what? Yeah. And then remember when Patty caught little fish about this big one of her first times out? Yeah. But the point is, why do we need to celebrate the little catches? I need you guys to hear this, because that might be the only fish that you catch. All right? And that analogy sounds so simple, but why do we need to celebrate the little victories in life? Because the reality is that little victory might be the only victory that you have for that day. That one interaction you have with somebody may be the only interaction that you ever get to have with that individual, period. Period. How do you want it to go? Do you want to celebrate it? Or do you want to sit back and say, oh, well, that was boring, that was a waste of time, that was this, that was that? You know, because again, we have just a glimmer, just a little bit of a moment in time. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I told you I'm going to cover a million different things with this sermon, but we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. We have no idea, right? That's just the uncertainties of life. So we need to celebrate even the little things. When we're searching for something bigger and that doesn't go our way, but we go there and, this happens, we need to celebrate those moments, right? Perfect example, picking on Troy and Dale for a minute. They've already had one little setback with their house. Super annoying. But the reality is they have a brand new house that got delivered. And how amazing is that? It's just absolutely incredible. And if we get caught and we get stuck with and it's human nature, so we're all going to complain about it, right? With the things that go wrong, because we want them to go right. We pay good money for it. But if we get so caught up with the little issues that we don't celebrate that initial catch of, this is now reality. There's this beautiful brand new home that's sitting on our property. We don't get to enjoy that moment, those steps of the way. And that can apply, like I said, to so many other levels. To those little fish, even if your daughter catches it, gets scared, and wants to throw the pole in the water. We need to celebrate those tiny little catches. Right? This is a huge one, too. Even on days that you don't catch anything, enjoy the company you've got. Right? Even on the days that you don't catch anything, enjoy the company that you've got. If it's just the water and it's you and God out there, enjoy every second of you and God. If it's you and your son out there, just enjoy every second of you and your son out there. If it's your family out there on the water and, someone lets a fish get away, you still enjoy every single second of those moments, right? Because we need to make sure that we're enjoying the company that we have. We can't be so stuck on our phones, so stuck in worrying about our other thoughts. God says, I got your word. I've got this part. I've got that. So when you're with somebody, period, try to put all of your worries, all of your anxieties, all of your fears, all of your, oh my gosh, what's going to happen, this, all of your to-do list, I need to get this done, I need to get that done, and enjoy the moment that we're in. But how hard is that for us to do? I think that's one of the single most incredibly difficult things for us as human beings to do. But we need to, when we're fishing, even if you don't catch anything, enjoy the company that you're with. And you cannot do that if your mind is full of all of the stuff of the world. So try to clear your head. Try to enjoy the moments that you're with people. Because again, you just don't know. You just don't know. And sometimes, like when we went fishing and we didn't catch a single thing, the laughs that we had, the reminiscing that we were able to do, the 6 hours of our day that we were able to say, guess what, we're in the middle of the middle of Lake Ontario right now, and the reality is we can't just go back and fix this, so we might as well enjoy this where we're at. That's what we need to do. Even if it's 20 minutes of being at the dock with your kid, 20 minutes of having a cup of coffee with your best friend, because that's all you have. 20 minutes of just alone time, whatever it is, enjoy that moment. Even if you're not catching anything, even if it seems insignificant, we need to enjoy those little moments. Because in those little moments, that's where God speaks the most. And in those little moments, that's where you're going to have some of the biggest impacts and some of the best stories you're going to tell. So don't worry if it looks at the moment like, well, I didn't have a salmon to catch in, so I didn't get that picture that I could post anywhere. Just enjoy it, even if you didn't catch anything. Enjoy the company. Because, again, me and Papa are going to be going back to Florida soon. It's going to be another 6 months to a year before we see him again. We enjoy nothing more than the dinners that we have every week. We can talk about the Tampa Rays and my boy Pachario.
Phillips.
My boy Phillips over there. Enjoy the company, period. Because fishing is so much more than just fishing, right? And 2 more little points. And this one applies much more to life in general. But in order to truly be a good fisherman, it takes time and commitment. Okay? In order to truly be a good fisherman, not just get lucky with a catch, but to know where the fish are, to know what lure combinations to use, to know where to put your boat, to know what depth of water to go to, it takes time and commitment. And so many of us get so frustrated because we go out on the boat one time and we don't catch anything, and we're like, well, that was terrible. And then someone comes back and they said, well, what about, did you go over here? Did you do this? Did you change this fish finder? Did you do that? And we're like, what are you talking about? And so many of us with life, we want things done like that. And the reality is we didn't put any time, any commitment, any effort into doing that. Whereas we have a camper here that I'm just touching on like 28 different people today. But we have a camper here he's fished his entire life. And there's rarely been a trip that he hasn't brought back a fish. Because he dedicates every moment of his life to what's the water temperature? What's the flow of this? What's this? What's that? And he charters every day. And he catches a lot of fish. Because the reality is that in order to be a good fisherman, it takes time and commitment. In order to be a good friend, it takes time and commitment. In order to be a good parent, a good son, a good, you name it, it takes time and commitment. And we're all so stinking selfish in this world, we don't want to give up either of those. And that's just the reality of it. Right? It takes time and commitment. If we're going to catch the fish, if we're going to consistently catch the fish, and reel people in to the church, and reel our kids in to where we want them to be, so that we know without a shadow of a doubt, if they're presented with a situation that they're going to do what's right, it takes time and commitment. And I would say a whole heck of a lot of patience. A whole heck of a lot of patience. And the last thing I want to learn from fishing is there's nothing more exciting than catching a fish. Right? I'm going to wrap this up. There's nothing more exciting than from simply fishing, and that bobber goes underwater, and it's holy smokes, to if you're on the Salmon River and you see that pole go down or whatever it does to go down. I don't know because I didn't get to reel one in, but there's nothing more exciting than when you see that initial moment and you continue to reel and you put the fight up and then you reel that fish in and you see the product of all of your hard work. You see the product of everything you've been through. There's nothing more exciting than that. Big fish, small fish. What I want to submit to you guys today is it should be the most exciting feeling in the world, especially at the end of the day, when you put all that work in and you get someone that they say to you, Travis, I want to commit my life to Christ today. Because that's what we do, right? That is the sole purpose of our existence, is to make sure that we save as many people from going to hell as we possibly can. And it's going to take a lot of work. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be days where you got them right where you think you want them to be and they have a setback. And our goal, our job can't just be like, nope, I'm done, and let the fish go. We need to continue to reel. Because there's nothing more exciting than when you get someone that, getting them to church is one thing, but getting them to that ultimate destination of saying, I gave my life to Christ today. There's nothing more exciting than that. Nothing. It beats anything under the sun, but it takes work. It takes enjoying where we're at. It takes watching our kids swing on the swings and not being distracted or upset or anything like that when, they do anything. It takes celebrating Mason coming up here and singing Jesus Loves Me like only he can. Him and Braylee together, the dynamic duo that is our worship team. It takes little moments like those and we celebrate them and it gets us that ultimate victory. So my only thing for you guys today is, where's your poles? Where's your poles? Right? Because our objective should be, we need to go fishing. We need to go fishing. And we need to enjoy those moments every step of the way because there's so much more that you can learn from fishing than just reeling in that fish. But we got to put the work in. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for the sunshine, the tree, the fresh Honeycrisp apples, and the super hot apple cider donuts, Lord. Thank you for the kids that just come up and just contribute every week, and in my opinion, really just are far more powerful than any words that any of us could say, God. I really am just so thankful for those moments, God. Lord, I just pray that you just go with us all today, and we all just can apply even one aspect of just the little lessons that we can learn from fishing so that we can, just better our own lives, better other people's lives, and ultimately be fishers of men and women, Lord. God, I just pray that you go with us this week and that we eliminate those distractions. We figure out what we need to change in our own lives so that we can be better fishermen for you, Lord. In your name we pray.